Hello, Odd Job Doer here, and today's little job is going to be hooking up a subwoofer. Now, subwoofers, and this one's for a vehicle, I don't really hear a whole lot of them anymore. I don't know if it's just because they're out of style or people just don't like that bass. Maybe most cars now include them in their stereo systems, but I got an old one here that I'm going to hook up and see if it still works. So what we started with was taking out or freeing the head unit basically. And I took the faceplate off. There's these little metal things that go down the side that clip on and pull it out if you still have them. If you lost them, that's no good. And so you pull this puppy out here, and what I'm looking for is, one, that little deal that says system control, remote control. That will send a signal to turn on and off the amp. And two, these RCA plugs. And this one has, three pairs. The top would be for the front, middle for the rear, and the bottom two are for a subwoofer hookup. And that's what I'll be hooking into with the RCA wires that will go from here basically to the amp. And from the amp it will go to speaker wires to the two speakers in the subwoofer. Next I will check out the engine and see what kind of connections I have there. Alright, so here we are in the engine compartment with a battery. And now this particular one, we're in luck. There's a little nut on top of them. I think most of the new ones have them. And I can just simply undo that nut and add another connection of wire. The negative's over there. We don't care about that. But that's what we care about this one here. And what we'll do is eventually put the wire through, route it somewhere around through the engine compartment, and then look for a place in the firewall. It's kind of tight back there, but look for a place in the firewall where we can put the wires through. And once through, we'll route them to the back of the vehicle where the subwoofer will be located at. Alright, now it's time for some equipment here. This right here is a remote wire. This will go from the little blue wire on the back of the head unit to the amp to make sure it turns off and on. This here we got is an 8-gauge wire. What do we got here? Negative. Ground. This is to ground off the amp. And this here is a 8-gauge power wire. This one has a built-in fuse holder. You just pop this thing up. It has a 50 amp in there. I might change that out with a smaller amperage because I'm not really... The equipment I'm working with here, the amp is not that powerful. I think it's only 190 watts total. This system set up here is for like 680 watts. And this already has a built-in ring to it. I might take that out to put in a beefier ring, but for now that looks like it's okay. As for wire gauges, 8 gauge is about as what should I say, small as I'd go. And so if you were to go down to a 4-gauge wire, it'd be thicker, and a 10-gauge wire would be a little bit thinner. And so the higher number, the thinner the wire, the smaller number, the thicker the wire, just in case you need to know that information. This here now, this is a braided RCA cables. This here is what will bring the signal from the head unit to the amp with the music. And this one's not so bad, but what I prefer is actually this kind of a setup, where it has your left and your right, and this little blue tab thing here is actually a remote to start your amp up, and this is all built into the cable. A lot handier than to kind of put these two together. Likewise, when you're running the wires, these two should go on like one side of the car, and this should go on the other side of the car, just to keep the power from trying to steal the signal and distorting it. As for tools, we have here two different ones, just kind of preference. But these are wire strippers and wiring tools. And this one here actually has some color coded up here for the different kind of connectors it uses when you use, let's say something like a butt connector. And I got a 5-in-1 Phillips right now, but it also has the slotted on there standard screwdriver. And I think I won't need anything more for tools than those. Then over here on some little miscellaneous parts, we have what I usually use is something called a butt connector. This right here, this is for It's hard to see, but it basically says 22 to 18 gauge wire. So I'd probably use that on the remote start, and you just put a wire in there and a wire in there, and you kind of make sure they touch the middle. Then you use your tools to clamp down the middle here, and that'll secure the wire. Some manuals say you should always solder your connections in, but I've never had a problem with not needing to solder. These here are a little bit different. These you actually will take the wire and twist them together, put this cap on it, and then clamp that down. I haven't used much of those. Here's actually the beefier ring I have. That might just swap out. These are all gold plated. Gold plated, they say, will conduct the electricity better. Same with this one down here. It could be used for a different negative ring. And last but not least, we have these here ties, the zip ties. That'll be handy to sometimes zip tie your wires to other wires to keep them all together, or to zip tie a bunch of wires to not make a mess, because we're dealing with a lot of wires in this thing. All right, next we'll look at the subwoofer. All right, and here's the subwoofer. Oh wait, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. So you can see it's kind of a big enclosure. Kind of takes up most of the trunk space. I guess this vehicle will be used just more for fun than traveling and whatnot. You can get smaller subwoofers. This one here was created a long time ago, from what I understand. And you can see down there, there's the woofer. There's the left side, the right side. You have this little hole protector thing that goes back in here. You can see there's a dusty old speaker in there with some connections. Right in there, two little connections. Now this here will have a wire hook to it that some of these on it, and this will actually go through a hole in the side of the subwoofer out, and then it would come to this here amp. We got a Rockford Fosgate 2600X, it looks like. If you wanted this particular piece of equipment, you might have to go back, I don't know, what, 10-20 years or something. But from my understanding, it still works. Up on the top here, you have connectors where you put in your speaker wires, and then let's see, you have probably a power, a ground, and maybe that remote control connector. I'll have to check the manual for that one. And then down below here, it's hard to see, but right up in there you got the RCA plugs go up in there, and you have a few more connectors, including a power light, and there's actually a little screw to help adjust it. Now this particular one has a secret on the bottom side, where you can't see, is a crossover. So you can have it play, highs, mid-range, or lows. And the crossover should be set for lows right now. Once again, subwoofer, huge. And taking a look around the back here, I'm probably trying to squeeze the wires up through where the seats connect and down the side rails. All right, and when I say side rails, I mean this plastic trim here. With a little bit of coaxing, it should be able to just kind of pop right out. Depending on what kind of a car you have, you might need to use a screwdriver. You can see right in there, there's like a little space. And that should be all the way up to the front, underneath the dash, and back here behind the seat somewhere. And both sides should have the same kind of access to do power on one side and the sound source on the other. Alright, so sometimes I kind of forget things. One of these, wrench. So to start with, add this tool to the list. This one's 10mm. Yours might be different. But basically you have negative, positive, and in case you're not familiar with car batteries, you undo the positive side first always, and then you undo the negative side. And so you're just going to grab on this thing here and get to turning. And oh, there goes the power. And tuck it back there somewhere where it's not going to ground itself off. Make sure it doesn't touch any metal. And then you can undo the positive, but I'll use both hands for that one. Then after that, we can start checking to see if the parts will fit on this, and go from there. Alright, since we're talking about the battery here, what we got is a little bit of corrosion going on, and dirty terminal. So this is a good time if you have one of these deals. On one side it's a little brush here to do the inside. Scrub it out. The other end, you got a coarse little wire thing, that entrapment that goes on this part here. Put it on, rotate around in one direction only, and clean up those terminals. After you scrub them kind of clean, take a little cloth and wipe off all the debris and stuff. What you want is your battery to always have good connection, because it can actually kill the life of your battery if your battery is not grounded properly and if it's not connected with the positive. Alright, so now we're back in the car here. We've taken out the glove box, and we've taken out some of the molding here. Right through there, and oh, well, you can't see it, never mind, but I'm back to those places. And so what we got here is our RCA connectors. Since this cabling is only black and white basically, or clear, I am going to hook the black one to the red and the clear one to the white. But basically red, I believe, is your right channel and white is your left channel, or a common channel. Let's see here. Let's see if we can do this. This is where you get more than one person to help you out with stuff, but I am the odd job doer, not odd job doer, so as blurry as this looks, I'm going to connect it in. Alright, ta-da, there it is. Make sure that you connect into the subwoofer, not your front or rear channels. Look on the back of this, it does have a little SW for subwoofer. And now on the other connection we do is the remote start. So I already took off the piece of paper from this. I took the strippers, like so, and you basically clamp down on the wire, probably about 1/4 inch or whatnot, and you clamp it down and you strip off the plastic. One easy motion. Let's try with this one here. Hands-free mode. So you go like this here. You go with the gauge of the wiring, clamp it down, give it a strip, and this little extra part here, just throw out the door. Alright, give this thing a twist. And then next you'll take both these together and give them a twist. And put on the little top hat guy, or if you want the butt connectors, you'd put one in each side of the butt connectors. And take this and go to down here, these crimp-ons. You find the right size, you just put it on there and you crimp it down. Alright. Alright, for the most part now you're done with the head unit here. You got your connections done. You take this little white part, the little top hat, you give it a little tug, and make sure it doesn't slip off. If it does slip off, just repeat the steps over to tighten out a new one. And then you can put this here, shove it back in there. Get in there, wires. Alright, so now I'm not going to put the whole unit back all the way, just because of the fact I took my little tools to pull it out and put them somewhere. And so what I'm going to do is just leave it right there for now. I'm going to deal with this wire here in the seat. What that is basically, I think it's 16 feet. Maybe I should point that out. There's 16 feet of this wire, and they come in 16, 25, maybe 12. And so you have the connectors here, or like I said, RCA connectors. These you don't want to cut and try to put back on. And so basically, if you have like, a small, medium car, I'm playing it safe by doing 16 feet, I'm sure. If you have a bigger one, and depending on where your subwoofer is going to be at, or your amp's going to be at, you might want to run a longer pair of wires, like maybe 25 feet. Or if you have an amp that's going to sit up front somewhere, you might just want to do a 5-foot connector. And so basically, it's going to come out where the glove box is at. I'm going to actually run it behind here. I'm going to probably attach it to these wires, and with something. And then it's going to go down here through the channeling, and that goes all the way to the back seat. And so I will continue that when I get to the back seat. Alright, so here we are to the part where we have to add power to the amp. So we're going to go off the terminal here, and we have to find a way through this jumbled mess down here to the far wall. Now, if you're lucky, and most older cars will have this, you have plenty of holes to choose from. In my case, I looked and looked and could not find none. So I have to add a hole, and to do that, I've located a spot right back here between those two pipes that go through the firewall. I already looked on the other side of the vehicle there, on the inside compartment, and it looks clear. As long as I stay just right to the side of it, I shouldn't have any problems. Now, to get back there to drill a hole is a little hard. It's impossible from the inside just about without taking your dash apart. And from the outside, you know, most drill bits aren't that big, but luckily we have this guest star here. Yeah, this is a 3/8 inch drill bit, probably about, I don't know, 2 feet long, and with a little luck I'll be able to get through that firewall and add a grommet to it. And if you ever go through your firewall, make sure you have a grommet to protect from the barb edges, and hopefully this will be a good location to run power through. Alright, so here we are, the results. I didn't die, car didn't explode. Oh, so I must have gotten the right spot here. See there, I got a hole there. Now I'll try to get this grommet in. Alright, let me figure something else out here. Alright, so grommet is in. Start feeding the wire through. And one of the tricks I like to use, which I'm sure most people know, is use your cell phone as a little inspection camera. And there you can see, ta-da, the wire is finally through the firewall of the vehicle. Now I'll take that, I'll probably either route it through, maybe straight down the center through some of this stuff here, or I will, maybe shifting up all the carpet, I will route it up around the top of the stuff here, all your levers and whatnot. You don't want this wire pinched anywhere or rub against anything. And so I'll come around this way, down to this wire mess, and along the edge of the vehicle like I originally planned, even though there's a bunch of thick stuff here. But I'll get this thing pulled out and routed, and then we'll be able to make the connections. Alright, as you can see, I have the wires routed underneath here and through here. I put the molds back, and the wire came all the way through the back here. So there's a little hole down there that you pop off a tab for this particular vehicle. So I popped off the tab and ran the wire through. You want to make sure no sharp edges so it can't rub and fray. Now the problem with newer vehicles, besides not having holes through the firewall, is not having a whole lot of metal in the back. So for grounding, my first attempt is to ground to this little nut here. It goes into metal and it should be fine. We got our amplifier there, connectors on top. You see the first 4 in the back there all taken up with speaker wires, and we have the left well, I guess it'll be on the right here. The right 3 one there is for ground, power, and auxiliary turn on. Now we have our RCA cables back here, and that blue one there's for the remote turn on. We have our red power. And what I like to do here is, if you don't want to crimp a spade connector that will fit in between the little grooves here, between the little grooves there, to add your wires and connections, you can do a little forked tongue action like this. And what I do here is I take the wire, I split it into 2 kind of equal spots, and then I give each side a different twist. And this should go right in here with a little coaxing. We'll run in there, and I will tighten that down later and probably pack it in better and secure it. And now this particular unit doesn't really have the identifiers to show you what hooks up to where. So what I'd gone to was online, and I went to a place called www.manualslib.com. That's MANUALSLIB.com. I was able to download a pretty full manual for this older amp, and it shows how to do the different hookups. So you got this one here. You got the first one, you can't really see, but it's ground. The next one is your connector to turn it on and off remote. And then the other one here says B+, which is your power. And now it's just a little bit after midnight, and so I think I will make these connections and test it out tomorrow. One other thing I'll do is I have some nylon cord here, and with this kind of trunk type space, it happens to have a bunch of these little tie-off loops, and so I'll wrap the cord around the subwoofer, this side, that way, and you can see over here is where the RCA plugs came in from way down low here. Yeah, RCA plugs, opposite side from the power, and so I'll wrap the cord around and tighten this thing up so it doesn't move around. And I'll do the hookups, and tomorrow I'll test it out. Alright, so we have the connections made up here. We have your speaker wires again, your power, not hot yet, your remote start for the amp, and your negative. Make sure they're all tightly put in there. Underneath here, if you can see it, we got the RCA plugs plugged in, which one's right, one's left, but since the amp wasn't really marked, I couldn't tell which is which. Now, this is all set up back here. I'll tie this rope around it eventually. Then what we need up front is to have the power hooked in. So I'll take the negative off, take the positive off, take this nut off here, hook on the O-ring, put the fuse in. The fuse I changed to a 30 amp because of the lower powered system, and then it should be ready to test out. Alright, so with the positive back on with the new wire attached to it, to the nut there. Make sure it's tight. Yeah, tight enough. This one here, tight. And you notice I took the fuse out. Big fuse, 30 amp. And I'll stick that back in, close it up, and then be ready to test out. Finally. Alright, so for now all systems are a go. We put the face plate back on the stereo here, and we'll turn it on and see what happens. Set up. Yeah. English, calendar, 2017, date. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Alright. Time, about 10:30. 10. 10:30. And I don't know what time you guys got there. 10:30. Maybe 3. Timing to nothing. Who cares? Contrast, nah. I guess that's fine. Who cares? Demonstration off. Quit. Yes. All right. 10:32. Go to time. Push the button here. See what happens. Tuner. Yep. Good old station. I can already hear the subwoofer back there. So here's a little classic station, and you can hear the bass from the instruments rumbling in the back. What else we got here? What's this? Alright, so you can hear some drum beats. I guess there's some Taylor Swift here or something. And what else we got here? No. No. Hold on. Let's find something else here. Black Eyed Peas, maybe? There we go. Boom, boom, boom. See if we can hear this. Yeah. Yep. They get it. Yep. It's coming. Oh, there it is. Now, if you can't hear this over the computer, that means you probably don't have a subwoofer on your computer. But this is booming loud. And I'll have to probably do some adjustments, but I can just adjust it through the head unit for the so you can hear me now. So you can do some adjustments to adjust the bass level and that alarm thing. So now I'm ready to push this back into place, lock it in, and I'll put the bezel back on here, and that should be it now. This here's the Odd Job Doer. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.